Hello and welcome to the promo for Always Digging. My name is Jeff Skull, aka DJ Scully Funk. Every Sunday afternoon, my partner Gary, aka DJ Gazet.
Hello. Welcome to this edition of Womanhood. I am one of the hosts, Lady T.
And I am Tanya Nicole.
And we are back. Woo.
Yes, Lady T, I cannot see you. Where are you? There we go.
Okay. Was I missing? I was missing.
Yes,
from
you were
that
missing
YouTube
in
page.
action. We need to see that beautiful face, girl.
Thank you so much. Lovely. Lovely being back. I'm happy to be back. We have been away, taking some much needed self-care and vacation time. And This is the time to be back. So we just want to welcome everybody who is listening to us via iliveradio.com here in Toronto or elsewhere on the radio. And of course, our YouTube followers as well. Welcome and thank you for coming back to tune in to today's episode, where our topic is fatherless daughters.
Yes.
Ooh.
We'll be talking about fatherless daughter syndrome today.
Yes, we will be. I sent out the invite to a few people and, I got quite a hefty response like, ooh, very sensitive topic. And I was like, yeah, it's one of those ones, but very important topic, I believe, that needs to be spoken about, and a topic that you and I can both relate to.
Absolutely.
Being fatherless daughters. So before we get into that, just give everybody an update as to pretty much what's been happening with us for the last 4 weeks. Why nobody has seen us. We've kind of been MIA.
Well, of course, a part of this because we were in Dubai.
We were.
Very interesting trip.
Oh, my goodness. Wasn't it ever?
Yes, it started out a little rocky, but we were able to make the best of the trip and end up having an amazing time. Definitely because we lost a couple of days. We want to revisit, but I would definitely recommend anyone to go visit Dubai. It was a wonderful experience. Hot, but tolerable.
Very, very hot. And what we didn't know, of course, going into Dubai was pretty much when their low season and high season were, because a part of the main reason we went was for a birthday party for somebody, which is a whole story in of itself. But regardless, we had a good time. And so we didn't really do a lot of preparation in terms of what we wanted to go see, etc., because these were things that were supposed to be organized for us. But there were a little bit of technical difficulties with that, unfortunately. So at about half mark to the trip, we were kind of left to our own devices to explore. To explore Dubai and just kind of make the best of our trip, which we absolutely did.
Yes.
We ended up staying in this remarkable, I talk about it all the time because that place was absolutely gorgeous, remarkable resort in Dubai. And it's interesting because when I mentioned to my mom that we were at a resort, she was like, they got those in Dubai. I was like, yeah, they got a lot of resorts in Dubai. So for those who don't know, yes, it is quite the experience. You can make Dubai what you want Dubai to be, which is, which really works for me. But we stayed at a wonderful hotel that when I talk about service, wow, like just mind blowing attentiveness the whole time, extremely luxurious. I've never experienced anything like that in my entire life. And I just need more of it. After I left, I was like, that's what my life has been missing this whole time. It was that perfect experience. It was. And it really set the bar high for all of my future travel experiences. But you
need to send out the reviews, by the way. I didn't get a chance to do
I
it
didn't
yet.
either. Yes, we do. We definitely have to big up the Taj Resort and Spa in Dubai on the Palm. Just an amazing experience. Going to Burj Khalifa, we did a safari. We did the Dubai Mall, which is just absolutely gorgeous. Great shopping there too. Came across so many nice boutiques. Like, they don't do clothes. Well, at least here in Ontario, Canada. Yeah, the clothes they have there are just wow. Like, it's the best place to go shopping. I was a very happy woman when I got back home. My husband, not so much. Me, very happy. What do you have to say about Dubai?
Yeah, I mean, it was a wonderful experience. I loved going to visit the mosque, even though, as we mentioned before, we didn't get enough time there. It was kind of a rush situation, but just being in that presence was so peaceful. Even that brief moment, I felt like I learned a lot more about that religion, in that brief moment, and would definitely want to visit again to get a fuller experience where I could spend more time there.
Absolutely.
The modesty even was beautiful that I've learned. It's different from, the Western world. And we kind of think, they're all covered up and, what are they doing? But there are places that we had to be covered up. And there was something that was quite sexy and beautiful about it, not being all showy and showing everything. There's something that I appreciate, that humility that I got from that, which was awesome. I can't hear you right now, Tanis.
No, not you. I'm actually signaling to Son of Man. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So that was a good experience. The spa that we went to visit was also amazing. I had a backache, because of the flight and an injury that happened prior to that. And after that massage, like, my back pain was completely gone. So thank God for that experience. The desert was interesting. I almost got sick. Motion sickness.
Yes. So we have to talk about the safari because that was hilarious. I know at the time, I kind of was laughing at the time. So we decided to book this tour. Shout out to Viator.com because the tour selection in Dubai was like top. So we ended up going on this kind of safari tour, and we were in an SUV really, but they call it, what do they call it? A buggy? A dune buggy?
Yeah, dune buggy.
A dune buggy. Okay. So it pretty much goes into it goes into the desert, which is all like hills and rolls and whatnot. And it pretty much just takes you on this wild ride. So we're in there. T's sitting in the front passenger seat. I'm in the second row at the back beside two people I don't know. One is an adolescent, one is a mom, and then another child, adolescent age, in the back. So we start this ride, and they didn't warn anybody. Number one, it's not a good idea to eat before you do this. Number one, I think that would have been key. And number two, you might want to take out the vommy bags because some people, especially if you suffer from motion sickness, may not fare very well on this ride. Like, there was no disclaimer. So we're in there and we're just bopping up and down, and he's skidding and we're turning around, and I'm having a great time because I love this stuff. I am known for having a very heavy foot. I try not to. I try to, drive within the confines of the speed limit, but unfortunately, sometimes, I got a little bit of road rebel in me. So I love that stuff. So I'm just hooting and hollering in the back. And then about how long? Maybe 2 minutes in, 3 minutes in?
About 5.
About 5 minutes in.
Maybe 3.
Maybe 3. The girl in the back's like, I don't feel so good. Keep in mind, this girl's sitting right behind me in the back. So I'm like, we need a vomit bag. So the guy who's driving the car tells my sister, open up the glove compartment. But the bag was like an actual bag, and it was sealed.
Like, when you go to the grocery store and you're fighting to kind of get the bag open, it was like tighter than that. And I was trying my best to get the thing open, and unfortunately, it was too late. It was too late.
This poor child vomited all over the back of the car. Sorry, I'm just trying to control my laughter. Vomited all over the back of the car. So we had to pull over on top of a sandhill and get out of the car. I think somebody, was it UT, who kind of felt a little nauseous because of the smell?
Did.
Yeah, like the smell was very powerful from this vomit. So we all jump out of the car. The poor driver, he has nothing to clean this up. Like nothing to clean this up. So there's vomit all over the back. We're standing on this hill. Like, okay, what do we do now? Yeah. We managed to find something. I don't know what we found to kind of help her clean up and to kind of clean up the car, but we couldn't clean everything up in the car. But we had to get back in the car to get to the next place that we were going to go as a part of the store. So yeah, even though I'm a nurse and I'm used to all of this stuff, like the smell, especially in a very hot vehicle, was not my idea of a good time. I kind of had a slight moment of like, ugh, but you know what? Held in there. We managed to get out, kind of aired it out a little bit and continued on. But that was just one of the funny moments in hindsight, was just that whole, she was like, I don't feel so good. And then, they just blew up the whole back of that vehicle. Oh my goodness. Yeah. What an experience. Other than that, we did the yacht tour, or the yacht party. We went on a yacht party.
Fun.
A lot of fun. Had a good time. Shouts out to Queen. It was her birthday, so I just wanted to shout her out. Happy belated birthday. We had a wonderful time with you and the crew. And are we looking forward to more? Probably.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe. Great. Yeah, so that was Dubai. Great, what was it, 11, 12-day experience? Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we had to bid it farewell, which was a little sad for me. I felt like there was just so much more to do and see. The one thing about Dubai that I actually really just admire is their creativity and how they cultivated Dubai to be what Dubai is right now. The rich history was also amazing to learn more about. It's just a beautiful, interesting place. I can't explain it. I know a lot of it is man-made. Obviously, it's originally a desert, but they've done just such an amazing job creating Dubai into what it is today. And if nobody's been, I know some people have been and hated it. I can't say I've had that experience like you. I found it very peaceful. I really appreciated the modesty. I appreciated the treatment by everybody there. I felt everybody was very respectful. And we met great people and had great conversations and just learned so much more about the world around us, which is why I love traveling. So, shout out to Dubai. We miss you, but we will be back.
Definitely. But I want to say something else on that.
Sure.
Be careful of the information that you take in, because when I came back, I shared my experience with a cousin of mine, and she was telling me about what she saw online, and it was all bad stuff that turned her away from visiting Dubai. So sometimes you have to, take information that you get from other people's experience with a grain of salt, because you just never know. Maybe it's their character. Maybe it's how they were carrying on when they were out of town, why they got the response that they had.
This is true.
But all I can say was, listen, from my experience, it was, top of the line, and it kind of changed her mind to want to visit again, because what happened was she always wanted to go. She saw some negative things online, and then it turned her off. And then I came back and I was like, hey, this is my firsthand experience. Both my sister and I had a wonderful time. And then it changed her back. So just be mindful of the information that you take in from online. Everyone has different experiences, and don't let what someone else says about something turn you off, because it could just be solely their experience, and you could be missing a blessing that you've always wanted to experience and encounter.
Absolutely. We are all different in our ways of thinking and our perspectives, and we just can't take one thing as word. I know I heard a lot of not so great things about it in terms of the rules and whatnot, but I see the logic in the rules, and I quite appreciate Dubai for a lot of the rules that they have. But there is a lot of freedom there as well. I didn't find it constraining at all personally. I had a few minutes when I was like, I couldn't actually see myself living here. Mind you, it is hot. And right now it's their low season, I believe. Their high season is in the wintertime because it's a little bit more cooler and more things are actually open. Starting in October than now. But we still had a great time and saw so much and so much more to see. So definitely a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth trip planned in my books. I feel like it's a place I would go to every year just to go for like at least a week. I loved it there. Okay, so after Dubai, that was about 2 weeks of life. And then I was back for a few days and then took off again to Jamaica for my honeymoon or my anniversary. We always say honeymoon trip, but it was actually our anniversary with my husband, which was great. So we celebrated 1 year of matrimonial bliss. Went to Jamaica, had a great experience. Just want to shout out Shanique, I always call her Shanique at Iberostar. She was amazing with us, and Nadine as well. Like, they treated us like absolute royalty. We had a wonderful experience there, and we were kind of ready to come home, though, especially me. I'd done so much traveling in June. I was like, I just want my bed by about day 5. And plus, going to an all-inclusive resort, after a while, the food becomes a little mundane in a sense, even though it's different things. It's kind of different things, but the same thing at the same time. And I find you just eat a lot. Like, I was just tired of food by day 4. I was like, I'm tired. I don't want to eat anymore. I'm done. So great trip. Enjoyed the sun. Definitely enjoyed the beach, but I cannot say that I wasn't happy to be home back in my bed. Very happy about that. But yeah, enjoyed the whole month of June and just very happy to be back here on our show. What about you? What were you doing while I was off in the Jamaican sun?
Oh, catching up on work. I have 2 kids that still need my attention. So, they were with their dad, so they're back home and kind of getting them situated. Even now, trying to prepare them. School will be back in next month for them. So getting them, awake earlier so they're not sleeping their life away, getting them involved with some activities, even though it's been extremely hot out here. So a lot of times we would do like outdoor activities, and we've kind of been in more than normal. Yesterday we did get to go out, but just really family stuff. I'm working on getting a TV show picked up along with my fiance. It's something that, he's doing, and, getting my clients back on target. I felt like I abandoned them, to some extent. Like, I've been a bad mom for my clients, but I did need that time for myself, and just trying to, get things organized and get things back in line. Sometimes it just seems like everything is all over the place, but it's just kind of, all right, let's try to get things back in order and continue to move forward. So a lot of really cool, exciting things, working on my Motivations project that's coming out soon.
Yes.
Right now I have someone working on the website, so everyone look out for that. Very interesting and unique project that I'm working on that I can't wait to share with all of you.
Yay. Looking forward to that. Yeah, a lot of things in your world going on. I know for me, when I got back, I needed a couple of days to sleep to kind of just re-regulate myself again. So had that, which was lovely. And then, I've just kind of been, setting the pace for myself to get certain things done rather than coming back and feeling overwhelmed with all these things that I want to get done before September rolls around and I'm back to teaching. So just kind of gave myself some goals and, some timelines to meet those goals, and just kind of pacing myself. And I'm really enjoying it. I realized prior to going on those trips, I was overwhelming myself to a point of procrastination, which is never a good thing. And I didn't realize it. It was like I saw all these things that needed to be done, and I wanted to get them all done, but realistically, there just was not enough time. So now I've just learned to be a lot more kinder to myself and just be like, okay, for the next half an hour, this is what I'm going to do. And once that half an hour is done, that's it. I'm going to then, take a little break and then move on to the next thing. Good. So I don't feel overwhelmed like I was before I left. Yeah, I'm really happy about that. And I'm just, I feel like since coming back, I'm just in a great place. A great place. Good. One more thing I did want to mention before we jump into our topic is, that was our first trip anywhere together, going to Dubai. Yes. So as some of the listeners know, maybe some don't, we are sisters. We, in essence, we're half sisters. We share the same father, not the same mother. So we didn't grow up around each other. So we kind of
believe in half sisters. You're my sister.
I know we're
I hate
sisters.
that.
I get it. But I just wanted to explain to the people. Okay. No, we don't look at it as any way because her mom literally is my mom. Like I love her mother, like my own mother. But, we weren't raised together, so we didn't spend a lot of sisterly time as younger children, even adults, to be honest with you. Yeah. So that was our first time away for that amount of time and just the two of us. So I feel like we learned a lot more about each other.
Absolutely. I felt that it was needy. Everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely.
I'm a proponent of that. You know, there's things that we can control and there are things that we just can't control.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like the way the trip worked out, for one, it reiterated for me, I do not like crowds. I rather, I'm like a solo type of person, me and two other really cool, close people, and I'm good. I'll find my joy in that space. So it just reiterated this whole crowdy thing. It just really wasn't for me, but I can do it, but not for a long period of time. Yeah. So I'm glad that it manifested the way that it did, because we were able to really just be ourselves, be with each other, grow, share, learn, laugh, cry, whatever it was. Yeah. We were able to be present. And I love and cherish that moment. And I'm grateful for it. Like, seriously.
I know, me too. And of course, you had to leave before I left. So when you left, I remember just literally, I felt like a part of me had departed from my body. I was like, oh, she's gone now. Now what? Because I'd grown, over the course of time, we like bonded so much and I kind of grew a little bit of an attachment. And when you left, I was like, I miss her.
And I kept on calling and checking. You all right?
I know.
You good?
I love it. It just, I think, really kind of solidified to me just what I've missed in life, knowing that I had a sister, but unfortunately not being able to connect with you the way that I'd wanted to. So it was just amazing to have that opportunity. So I'll always be grateful to Dubai for that. It was amazing. So anyhow, that's all I will say. Anything else before we jump in?
No, because we will run out of time.
We will.
Started on this Fatherless.
Okay.
So I want to say some more stuff, but I'm going to shut my mouth.
Okay. Yes, we are at 3:20, so we're just going to go in. Yes, it is. You know what? As I was doing research for this topic, I was like, is like one show going to be enough? Because it is quite a deep one. So as mentioned before, we're going to be talking about the fatherless daughter syndrome. And it's actually a syndrome. And I didn't realize it was a syndrome until I started to research it. So do you want to open up this topic?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go back a little bit. Okay. When you mentioned the idea of this topic, it made me start to think, because I never really processed how my father not being in my life really affected me, right? Because when you don't have a parent in the life, especially from the very beginning, you don't realize that you're missing something. And that's what I realized thinking about this. I was like, I didn't realize I was missing anything, because my norm was just my mother being in my life as a dominant parent, right? And my father just maybe popping in periodically whenever I saw him, which wasn't very often based on my memories. So I began to think, like, I wonder how it affected me. And one thing I can say for sure in thinking about it was I had no idea about how a man should treat me as a woman. I had no expectations, which made me realize that that's why when I went into relationships, I had no expectations because I didn't have a framework to work off of. So literally anything would go. Yeah. Anything could go because I have no framework to base it off of. And thinking about it, it just kind of made me sad. Okay. It's like, wow, I'm in this teenage years, my early adulthood years, dating, and have no expectations as to how they should or shouldn't treat me, other than basic shallow stuff that I might get from my mom, Yeah. But as far as getting it from my father, it wasn't there. So there was just like, all right, what do I do? I'm just jumping into the space of getting involved in relationships and have no idea as to what I should take, what I shouldn't take.
Yeah.
You know, no idea as to what's good and what's not good. No idea how to navigate the world of relationships with the opposite sex.
Yep. And I can co-sign that one. And that wasn't something I realized until a lot later on in life too. Like just not having expectations at all. Not just not even thinking about it, not being taught it, not having that be modeled necessarily for me.
That's a good word.
Yeah, it was very, and I mean, yeah, for the last, I would say, how old am I? It's 20 something years. Yeah, it's been quite the roller coaster in the relationship department. I will say that. You know, and one of the things I'm grateful for is, you know, going through some healing, et cetera, which we'll get more into later. But yeah, not realizing it. And I remember one time, maybe about 15 years ago or so, I had a friend and she had asked me, like, do you think you have daddy issues? And that was the first time anybody had ever broached that topic with me. And I would be like, I don't, and I replied and I said, I don't know. Like, I don't even know what that is.
Right. I've never even say, what is daddy issues?
Yeah, what are daddy issues? Like, how do you know you have them? Like, I've never thought about, like you, I've never thought about what the impact was not having, you know, a father around. Now, I did have a stepfather who came into my life very early on in life and was there pretty much up until I was like a preteen, teen. But that wasn't a healthy dynamic at all. So that I think further complicated things, so to speak, right? Because, you know, there's always this thing where we always talk about the nasty step parent. And you know, it's a true thing. And in my experience, yeah, it's real. It's a real thing. And I can honestly say I had the nasty step parent. I did. I had a nasty stepfather. I'm going to be very open about it. Who was not good to me at all. And that made the daddy issues even worse.
Yeah.
So let's jump into that. So what exactly is fatherless daughter syndrome?
Okay. So fatherless daughter syndrome, and we kind of touched on it a little bit here. It's also known as daddy issues, right? It's an emotional disorder that stems from issues with trust and lack of self-esteem that leads to a cycle of repeated dysfunctional relationships and decisions, oftentimes with men. Okay. But when I say dysfunctional, or let me go back up a little bit. When we talk about the absent father, right? We're not just talking about a dad that would be classified as deadbeat. That's just not there. You could actually have a father in the house that is also absent that can contribute to this fatherless daughter's syndrome.
Okay.
It's about being present. You know, maybe your father was an alcoholic and wasn't emotionally available for you. Maybe he worked so much, you know, that he wasn't available emotionally for you. Maybe he went to prison. He wasn't there for you, or he just was absent because of a divorce or any other reason. So I want people to understand that it's not just, you know, through divorce or the father just not being in the house at all. Okay. The father could actually be very present in the home as a physical body, but emotionally unavailable. And that will also affect you the same way as a father that's not in the household because of a divorce or just because he's an absent father. So just keep that in mind. So that's pretty much what it is in a nutshell. But how it plays out is what we really want to focus on in this discussion, because it's a psychological disorder that is very self-destructive and can create some major issues in your life. Talking about depression. For teenagers, sometimes you end up having babies early. Right? Teenage pregnancy, it contributes to stuff like that. Obviously, low self-esteem, low self-worth. So there's a lot of ways that being a fatherless daughter can play into your world, not only dealing with relationships, even though it shows up a lot in relationships, but also even academically. You know, the research shows that it could affect you academically, where you become a low performer, you know, in school and education and at work.
Yes. And what was interesting is, as I was doing the research for this, and it named some of the things that you can experience being a fatherless daughter, I was like, check. check. Like it is a real, it's a huge thing. And I think I read there are approximately 23 million fatherless daughters across the world. That's a lot. And if we're all experiencing one of those things that I checked, I can see why society operates in which the way it does, and certain things kind of continue generationally, etc., because it really impacts the family unit and the future family unit. So I was reading from the Dr. Fem site, this gentleman, and he speaks on these issues. And I like what he says in a couple places I'll read. He said, women growing up without a father are different. Life does play out in a different manner in the absence of paternal protection and support. Fatherless teenagers and young women all over the world suffer from emotional trauma that has serious bearings on their personal development. So it impedes our development. So some of the impacts it has is having a constant battle with self-esteem, leading to a feeling of unworthiness, low quality of life standard, loss of the sense of security, reduced mental and physical well-being, increased level of anger, facing emotional challenges in intimate relationships, premature sexual activity in teenage pregnancy, like you mentioned, and likely to get married in the teenage phase. And I check all those boxes. Legitimately, I had my first son when I was 16, and I got married the first time when I was 18. So, as somebody who grew up in a fatherless home, I can definitely attest to, all of these things being a factor in my personal experience.
Yeah, like it's interesting how you were able to connect to that, because it's real, and I think some people think that fatherless daughters, that they are the issue based on their behaviors or the decisions that they make. And they don't realize that it's the destruction of the family unit that caused those behaviors, So, and I'm not going to bash men who, for whatever reason, were absent from their child. But what I'm going to say, and I hope this brings a level of awareness, is that you are important. Men, fathers, you are important. You are so important that your absence can create dysfunction in your seed. And if you could really hear that, and whatever problems you might have with the baby mom or the ex-wife, if we could find a level of maturity to put that aside for the sake of your seed, being able to develop in a positive, healthy manner. We have enough stuff out there, that is, contributes to our diminished mental health, diminished emotional health. The last thing we need is for our caregiver, the man of the household, the fathers whose seed brought me here, to not be present, to create even more damage and destruction to my personal well-being. So if anything else, men, fathers, you guys are so important. And we need you.
Yes.
We need you.
Yeah. And one of the things I like that I've been seeing a lot lately is, co-parenting and, adults being mature and recognizing that, yes, the relationship didn't work, but our child still deserves the very best from the both of us. So let's come together and try to make that work for the child, because it's for their future benefit. So I can always appreciate when I hear parents having 50-50 custody, etc. So that child is equally spending time with both parents, so they're to ensure that they're getting what they need from both mom and dad. Really important.
Yeah. And it's a level of maturity. I can say I'm divorced. If no one knows that, I'm divorced and I have 2 kids. And when we went through our divorce attorney was surprised as to how amicable we were and how respectable we were towards each other. But in our minds, and in my mind in particularly, I was like, I don't want my kids to be hurt by this. Of course, there were some issues early on, as far as you could see little behavioral changes, but it wasn't It was significant, but we were able to come together. Like, they've never heard me bash their dad. They've never heard their dad bash me. They've never heard me, you know, I've always kept things positive. I've never kept them away from their father, and same vice versa. Now, that's not the reality for most people, a majority of the people who go through divorces, unfortunately. But if you guys could think of it like if you are in the process or have been in the process, it's not too late to try to bring it back together again. Sometimes it is. Sometimes the situation is just so dysfunctional, you might as well just keep it right where it is because it's not going anywhere, unfortunately.
Exactly.
Because you have two unhealthy people or one person that's totally, you know, unhealthy, and it just can't work.
And domestic violence as well. Like, by all means, we're not saying like there are specific situations where we just know like it's not possible. So
it's dysfunctional. Yeah.
We're not
verbal,
speaking on
physical
those ones.
Abuse, any of that kind of abuse. It's not going to help, you know, because also brings me to this point. Sometimes even if two people are working together, you know, in a divorce situation, but they are toxic to each other, just trying to be in each other's space, in that toxic space, is not helping.
Yeah.
So you might as well just separate and do the best that you can separate, because the toxic environment is just going to make things worse. Because I know some people stay in relationships because like, oh, the kids, but it's toxic and the kids are hurting anyways.
Yes, they are 100%. Aware of that as well. So in this article as well, as they talk more about the psychological effects of an absent father, whether that be in the physical sense or in the emotional sense, it was saying that as the woman grows, she tends to suppress her emotions. And over time, that will lead into like bursts of, I guess, anger, rage, frustration. Yeah. Due to the loss. And usually that tends to come out when they're experiencing a loss or abandonment or trauma of some sort. And I definitely have had that, and I didn't understand why. And I honestly, I remember it's happened a few times in my life, and I didn't understand why. I remember in the moment having the burst and feeling like, oh my God, I can't even control what's happening right now. I don't even know where all of this is coming from, you know, and being told it wasn't even that deep, which it wasn't, but it wasn't even about what was happening.
That person.
Right? It was about these pent up things that I had been suppressing and not even realizing that I was suppressing all these negative emotions.
That's the thing. Our subconscious, it's a serious, you know, dynamic. And like you said, you didn't even know.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people operate on, I don't even know why. I don't know why I said that. I don't know why I do that. I don't know why I feel this way or that way. And it's so important to do the work to figure out why. So those outbursts that you were having, like you said, like you mentioned, is because you have some suppressed emotions there. And I always say, what is inside will always come out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any past traumas, hurt, disappointments, if you don't work on unpacking them and learning what they are, how they affect you, they will continue to stay there and they will come out one way or another. And you might act a certain way, and you're just like, you know, Lady T said, I don't even know why I was doing that. And some men or women, whoever this happens to, they might be, girl, what's wrong with you?
You got problems.
I got to back up. You're a little scary. You know? So, but what it is, honestly, are those suppressed emotions that have to find a place out somewhere. It could come out. That's where the depression.
Yes.
It could be that suppressed emotion, the anxiety, those suppressed emotion, anger, those suppressed emotion, you know, even perpetuating emotions like abandonment, suppressed emotion based on fear. There's a fear component there, right? I was more of an avoidant type of personality based on fear, right? Due to my abandonment issues. I didn't know why I was afraid of men half the time. Like, oh, don't get close. stay right there.
Yeah.
Back up.
Back up.
You
Back
know,
up. Mind
I had my
business.
running shoes on, like for real, like I'm sprinting. I'm running.
Yeah.
And didn't understand why. And getting close to someone, I felt very anxious. The anxiety was there. Once I got that anxiety, I backed off.
Yeah.
I'm running the other way. I don't want you to get close to me. You stay right there. I'll stay right here. So that was kind of like my dysfunctional attachment style, that came. I didn't know what it was, though.
Yeah.
I was just reacting. It wasn't until I learned a little bit more about what was going on emotionally inside of me, why it was happening, how my past experiences and my past traumas influenced that I was able to say, wow, that's why I do that. And once you understand why you do what you do, you can then begin to change it to say, you know what, I don't like that. I don't want to be that. So what are the steps that I need to take so that I can change those unhealthy behaviors? So as we're here talking about fatherless daughters, if you notice yourself having any of these symptoms and you never really connected it to a father not being in your life, or maybe you did connect it to a father not being in your life, but you didn't do anything about it. You just kind of chop, well, my daddy wasn't in my life, or, I have daddy issues, because some people wear it with a badge of honor, which is really interesting. That's another interesting thing that we should all talk about. Oh yeah, I have daddy issues. Like, it's okay to have daddy issues, but not do anything about it.
Yeah. We must do something about it for sure. And it's an ongoing process. Because right when you think you've healed one part, something happens, whether in a friendship or in a romantic relationship, and up pops this other part that you're like, oh, where do you come from? I didn't know. You know what I mean? I know for me, you mentioned you are avoidant. I'm anxious, right? And I think it's good to know what your attachment style is. And I'm so happy. I've spent a lot of time reading about attachment styles because it really made me understand more about myself and why I was the way I was. And I have great conversations with a friend of mine. Shout out to Jessica, who's, she's now starting her family. She has 2 little wee ones there. And we talk about how to raise securely attached children. So it's a conversation that we have, and I'm always sharing my bit. And when I look at, how an anxiously attached child grows up and becomes an adult, I'm me. That's textbook for me, right? And seeing that, I don't like that. So I've worked really hard on trying to kind of delve into that deeper in therapy and try to kind of pluck out all of the bad stuff from that. Because in essence, what you're trying to do as an anxiously attached person is keep people there, but the things you're doing are actually pushing them away. Right? So it's hard to maintain healthy relationships because of that. And I also got into this mode with romantic relationships where I would kind of try to hurt the person before they hurt me if I felt like they were going to hurt me. So it's all these sabotage and things that we do, but it's all about the fear of rejection. It's about the fear of being abandoned. You don't want to feel that because it hurts
so bad.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. It hurts. It is very devastating. So you're trying to prevent yourself from going back to that place where you felt abandoned and neglected and rejected,
and
right?
lonely and hurt and
Yep.
any of those other emotions that don't feel good, And as we talk about contributing to addictions, that's where the addiction kind of gets fed, because you're trying to move away from feeling those feelings. So you find something that you get addicted to. It could be sex, right?
Yep.
It feels good. I don't want to feel not good. So I'm going to do something that makes me feel good. We talk about even alcoholic, addictions. The same thing. I want to feel good. I'm trying to make myself feel good. And I think once you notice that you don't feel good, that's an indication that, hold up, this doesn't feel good. What is it that I'm feeling?
Yeah.
What is going on? We're always grabbing, especially in this age, we want to feel good right now, instant. We don't want to feel pain, but in pain, pain means something is going on. there's something that needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
There's something that needs to be worked on. So when you feel it, when you feel that discomfort, it's time for you to look inward and say, whoa, wait a minute. What turmoil is going on inside of me that I need to work on? It doesn't feel good, but I can cover it up with anything, but it's still going to be there. And that's going back to what we talked about, Lady T, when we have these behaviors, these outbursts, right? Or there's behaviors that are dysfunctional and we're wondering, oh my God, why did I just do that? Why am I operating in this dysfunctional space? It's probably because you're not listening to what's going on inside because it hurts so much.
Yeah.
So you're just reacting. It's very reactive.
And, you know, as you're saying what you're saying right now, I'm thinking back to, you know, to when you said you didn't even realize anything different. Like you knew you had your mom and that was just life. So it kind of feeds into what you're saying is you just don't know. You don't know where it's coming from. You just think it's just a part of you, but but you don't link it to a father. Maybe you link it to like the past relationship that was very, you know, that was a lot for you, very traumatizing to you, but you're not linking it to like back, literally to like conception.
You're actually linking it to yourself.
You're linking it to yourself.
That's where the lack of self-esteem and the lack of worthiness comes
from. Yes. Yeah.
Right. I'm not good enough because I behave this way or I'm acting out this way. And when I act out this way, this is the response that I'm getting. And it's not a good response. They're telling me that something is wrong with me. I'm crazy. You're not good enough. You need to go somewhere. Right. So it falls right back on you. And you're not even understanding the layers underneath.
Yeah.
That really has nothing to do with you directly in that moment.
No.
It has something to do with you when you know what the problem is and you don't do anything about it.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you don't know what the problem is, you know, that means someone planted that seed in you. Somehow that seed was planted in you and you don't even know. All you know is something is growing and it's ugly.
And you cannot control it.
You can't control it because you don't know what the problem is.
You don't know what the problem is. Exactly.
So going back to something that you talk about, you know, 1 minute, you know, you feel like you fix this problem and then something else surfaces and then you're working on that and something else surfaces. And that's what growth is all about. I don't think we ever get there. We just get better.
You get better. Yeah.
You know, we never get to a place of quote unquote perfection. We just get better.
No such thing as perfection.
Yeah. You know, we just get better at it. So as we're working through first acknowledging, do I have daddy issues? You know, if you answer yes, actually, first I'll say, did you have an absent parent?
Yeah.
If you acknowledge, yes, they were absent emotionally, physically, in any other way, maybe, like I said, incarcerated, maybe they had an addiction of some sort. Maybe they were working so much that they weren't even in the household. If you answer yes to that question, now the next question is, now that I know and acknowledge that, you know, my dad was absent, he wasn't there, how has that potentially affected me? What are some of my behaviors that are showing up in my relationships? They often show up in relationships. That's why it gets, you know,
the common denominator.
You know,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. What's the common denominator?
How is it showing up in my relationships? What are the demands that I'm putting on my spouse or my significant other that has nothing to do with him, that has everything to do with me and my unresolved daddy issues?
And those are deep. And those are answers that do not appear overnight. Like you may need some support with that, right? Like seeing a therapist to kind of help you unpack some of that, because it can get deep and it can be a scary place when you start to unpack that. And it could be a very hurtful place as well.
Very hurtful, very lonely.
Yeah.
Because you feel judged.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy to feel judged. It's easy to feel like you're a bad person for feeling those. But, you know, we talk about a lot in my household about self-fulfillment, you know, and experiencing joy. And I have to say, you can experience joy. You can experience true joy when a lot of your traumas have not been worked out.
Amen.
you have to start working through these deep traumas if you are affected in any way. And I know, especially as women, one of the main things that we struggle with oftentimes is our worthiness. You know, are we good enough? And even as Black women, you know, we talked a little bit about this, Tanis. I'm kind of going off a little bit,
okay.
but I'm going to come back,
yeah.
you know, about our skin complexions.
Yes.
You know, and we're probably going to have another show on that.
Yes.
And definitely. The message that we get from our men about our skin complexions being lovable or unlovable, that also contributes to our daddy issues. You know, did our fathers tell us that we were beautiful the way we are? Were they present to help us develop our self-worth so that we do feel worthy, to help develop our self-esteem so that we do have healthy self-esteem, you know, to develop our personal values so that we do feel valuable, you know? And I go back to say what I said earlier, men, we need you. I know there's some women out there, I don't need no man.
Oh my goodness.
You know,
can we stop?
Let's not do that.
Can we stop?
Let's not do that.
Yeah, let's not do that.
We need you.
Yeah, we do. We definitely do. I have some statistics here. I had them on my screen and now they kind of jumped off my screen.
Disappeared.
They totally went somewhere else. Don't know where they are. Okay, I'll be back. I'll come back to that in a second.
Yeah. So I did want to finish that thought about, you know, the process.
Yes.
You know, because I think it's very key to understand that, you know, when you work through one thing, you know, there is something else that's going to, you know, reveal its head, you know, and when it does, you just work through that. There is something else maybe in the area of work and how you communicate with your coworkers, right? Or how you communicate with your boss, you know, and if you're a boss, how you communicate with the people that work underneath you, you know? So it really plays out in every facet of your life, not only in relationships. It just shows up easily in relationships.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you're actually
but
dealing
in
with
every facet of your life, you know, these issues will present its ugly head.
It will. I found the stat that I was looking for. So, like I mentioned before, over 24 million children do not live with their fathers. And further studies also show that 71% of teenage pregnancies are reported from fatherless families. 71%.
And
that's high.
There's another stat too. You're right. That's a very high number. And I think it's 92%.
Yes.
If I recall correctly.
Of fatherless women are most likely to divorce.
Yep.
Wow.
I'm familiar with those stats.
Yeah, I'm familiar with those stats too. We're both divorced women, so very familiar with those stats. And
that's really high, like 92% and 71%. That's really, really, really high.
Yeah. And
Crazy.
It all stems back to, okay, so let's talk about this very briefly. What is a father supposed to What's the purpose of a father in a daughter's life to you? Or
that's a good question.
Based on anything that you've read.
I wish that we had some men here to kind of give their perspective on that. You know, I think sometimes as women, we are so used to speaking for the man.
This is true.
We've had to take on this role.
This is true.
That we don't really listen to the men because unfortunately, you know, they're not really as available as we would like them to be for whatever reason. You know, I'm not going to blame it all on them. We have some women out there that make it really difficult for the men. So I'm not going to, because they have their own issues. So I don't want to discredit and make all the men seem like they're just these bad, horrible people.
No,
that's not
we
reality.
know there are great
but
men,
I
great
feel
fathers.
like what I would expect is to be emotionally available. And what does that mean? Just because, like I said before, you're in the household and you're there and you're providing food and shelter for your family, you are needed more than that. We need you to sit down and talk to us. We need you to teach us, you know, as young girls, you know, and young men. This is another topic. As young girls, you know, teach us about men, show us what it means to be treated well. You know, don't just tell us, you know, don't let a man do that. Don't let a man do this, you know, show us, be kind and gentle, When I have a concern, listen with an open heart, without judgment or condemnation, right? It's just being fully present and available. And I think that is the key. If I would say anything else, be emotionally available.
Emotionally available.
That's worth more than a new bicycle for my birthday. That's worth more than, even coming, of course, supporting me for my sporting events. That's good too, because you're showing, hey, my daddy's there to support me. I'm playing basketball, I'm playing volleyball. My daddy's right there to show that support, which contributes to emotional support as well, right?
Yeah.
But it's about just being completely present. Allow me to be heard, and teach me.
Yeah.
Teach me. I think that's more than anything. I think the syndrome here could be alleviated if our fathers were more emotionally available to us and for us.
Yeah.
I think that's key.
Yes.
What do you think?
Same as you, it does speak in the article, and I love this article. I gained so much more information through it. So I just want to read a couple of excerpts from it. So it says, a girl without her father misses a very important emotional bond of a family. So there it is, that emotional piece. Her family nourishment remains incomplete in spite of the presence of a strong-willed mother donning the cap as a father, as and when required. And that's the other thing I don't want to touch on it too much, because I think that's a topic of itself. But moms, we cannot replace the fathers. And I think that's really important. We
should talk about that.
I think that should be a whole show topic on itself, because there's a lot of that happening. And there's another side to that that's very dark. So, we need fathers to be fathers, and we need mothers to be mothers. So it says, but a gap will still remain. One needs to understand that playing the role of a father by a single mother in most cases is not by choice, but out of compulsion. The outcomes are not healthy, as revealed by the statistics that I already mentioned. So I agree with you. I think how we learn as women to be appreciated and loved, I believe that comes from our fathers. They kind of put that in us, like, this is how you should expect a man to treat you. This is how a man should come to you. This is what you should accept. These are the things that you don't accept. And I think we see that modeled through our parental relationships, whether they're with each other or with other people. Just how we view our fathers treat other women is a little bit or contributes to the framework of how we then move forward in our own
And this starts at early childhood, by the way. Early. You can't just pop in and do it when they've already developed their characters and their personalities.
Yeah.
This stuff is taught at a very young age when they're most impressionable, leading by example as well, teaching by example, showing by example, that, these personal development aspects of your growth is developed and kept, and most important.
Yeah.
It's too late once they're already out there and they're grown and they're an adult and they're doing their thing, because technically they kind of know what's right from wrong, but they've already learned what they learned. And at that point they have to go through their own lessons, their own life lessons. So this stuff has to be taught at a very young age, their most impressionable years of early development.
Absolutely. And I always say, I still remember things that happened in my life when I was 2 years old. So some things stick, they never leave, even as an adult, and they do play into your subconscious. So we only have 2 minutes left. My goodness. And like we mentioned, we couldn't talk about this on, and maybe we should have a part 2 and bring on a dad or two.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think it would be a good conversation to have, to get the perspective from a father or fathers. We could probably have a couple to kind of talk a little bit more about their perspective. And it would be good to hear from someone who is considered an absent father to kind of hear some background information.
Yeah.
Gather some background information from that.
Absolutely. So I won't even dig any further into the information we do have. But for those who are experienced in this, just in the last 30 seconds, what would you say? How should they move forward? I know that you mentioned a few things. Can you just highlight those before we leave?
So one of the first things I would say is acknowledgement, recognizing it's almost like when you go to AA, recognize that, hey, I have a problem, I don't know where this problem stemmed from. So let me start to dig a little deeper. Look inward. That'll be the first thing.
Okay.
Look inward. And if you discover that there's something going on, then reach out to a coach, reach out to a therapist that you feel you can trust to start to work through these issues, especially if it's affecting your quality of life in your relationships, your business, and your personal life.
Absolutely. Definitely a social problem that needs more of a systemic approach to heal and move forward.
Exactly.
But thanks to everybody who is listening to us today. We really appreciate the time you took to join us for today's show. We will be back next week, probably with part 2 of this conversation because it was so good. Yes. And we definitely feel very male passionate about
some male guests.
Yeah, I believe that we should. Okay, well, thanks everybody. We hope you continue to enjoy your Sunday, and we will see you next time. Until then, take care.
Take care.